If your if your master is within you, why doesn't everyone have a unique master? Why can't you only be my master?
If your master is within you, why doesn't everyone here have a unique master? Why can't you only be my master? Master is a human being, ordinary human being, just like us, born like us, dies like us, falls sick like us, eats food like us, goes to hospital like us, has children like us, has responsibilities. No difference at all between the life of a perfect living master and another human being, including his disciples. No difference. Only difference is in the awareness, level of awareness. We are not aware of ourselves. We are not aware of even the inner cover that we have, mind and senses. Master is constantly 24/7 aware of it. When masters come as human beings in a human life with karma, with just like a pattern like ours, their interaction with us is at the human level. And that is why masters, when they come here, don't pretend to be anybody higher than that. No perfect living master has even ever claimed to be a master. Great master never said he is a master. Guru Nanak has never said he was a guru. He said he was Dasan Das, the servant of the servants. If you see, no perfect living master said this. What they want to be our friends. We become friends. And you can't be friends if you're not ordinary. If you're extraordinary, you can't have friendship. You have to be ordinary. And sometimes I give example. Supposing an extraordinary master happens to come in here to see what's going on. And the extraordinariness is he can levitate. He's coming flying in the air like this. When he's flying overhead, he'll make some noise so we can see him. Otherwise, no use is coming. So when he gives a signal, all of you will look up and see a person flying over there. Wow, wonderful. Then what will be our thoughts? We look at that person, there must be some string attached. There is some trickery going on. That's the first thought. Second thought, maybe by some yogic practice, this man has learned real levitation and he's a real master, he's gone up there. You can have that feeling. Some may even faint seeing this a body just moving around like that, ghostly figure. Some may not be sure if it's a real person. Many of us may worship him. He is really enlightened. Let's worship him. Extraordinary person. But none of us will be his friend, nor can we fall in love with that master. Supposing while he is performing his levitation and it falls down here, everybody sitting around will go and try to say, can we help you? First time little compassion will come in your mind. Love and compassion does not flow just like that. Love and compassion flows for somebody who is like yourself, just like yourself. The more like yourself, more love and compassion flow. That is why these perfect living masters are giving us an example of love. And they come exactly like ordinary beings. So when they come as ordinary beings, then like ordinary beings, they say, okay, we have to now pick up some people. Where are they? They don't use magic for that. They carry list A, these souls we have to take. Where are they? They locate them, appear in their life by coincidences and circumstances, and then they become their friends and take them back gradually through the process of love. And we feel love and devotion in our hearts. We go and follow them, and they take us inside and all above. So this is something that they remain ordinary. Therefore, in an ordinary sense, they say, okay, I have come for these people, not for the general public. Teachers come for big audiences. Perfect living masters come for the marked souls. Marked souls who are on their list which they have to carry back. As it happens, because of their awareness, they have an impact even on those who are not on the list that they are carrying. So that is why this phrase I have coined up. There is a list A for which they have come, and list B which they generate by being amongst other people who are not their marked sheep. So that is why masters come only for marked sheep. And this world is based on time and space. A human being can't be everywhere, and a human being can't be teaching everywhere. Therefore, they are born in different places where the seekers. They come where seeking is going on from the soul. And when they appear, they pick up the seekers for whom they have come. Therefore, they can't pick up everybody. There are millions of seekers on this planet. Millions. Masters will come time to time in different places where the seekers are. Sometimes there is an area with many seekers. And master is one human being. Then two masters will appear in the same area with different sheets marked. One, these souls marked for one, these souls for another. A soul marked for one master happens to be in the presence of the other master, will not feel that pull. The other one, first master is pulling love, second perfect living master is not pulling. Why? Not his or her master. So therefore, this is not a generalized teaching that they come for. They come for individuals, and an individual can say, I found a perfect living master, you come to him. We're telling a friend. Friend says, I don't feel any pull. It's not necessary that the master is that friend's master also. There could be another master for the friend. So that is why as populations grow, the age changes from Satyug to Kali Yuga, from the Iron Age to the Golden Age. Population size increases a lot before we destroy ourselves to enter the Golden Age. At that time, more masters come. In the beginning, very few masters exist, very few seekers are there. But in the age of Kali Yuga, in which we are passing now, more masters appear. More masters, there can be masters by thousands teaching us basic principles of going within. They are just teaching, go within, go within. They don't know what else is within. But they know there is something, they teach us. So we go to a master, he teaches us, go within. We say, Master, what next? We don't know. Next master will tell you. Second master comes to life, third comes to life, fourth comes to life. When our seeking goes on unsatisfied, the final perfect living master appears in our life and takes us back home. Till that journey, you may come across so many masters, including some perfect living masters who are not your master. So it's not a general game that the masters have come for humanity and they've come to teach everybody to go. No, they are not teachers. So they come like that. So that is why you have to have your own master. One can say, my master, great master, when I was with him, I felt he was only my master. How could a person love you so much that you can feel he could be loving somebody else? We are not used to that as human beings. We like to be very unique, and uniqueness means separation. Masters are here to remove separation, and we want separation to become exclusive. Master, you should only love me. Be exclusive. Let other people find their own masters. That's how mind runs. And very often, the intensity of a master's love gives us that feeling. He's only our master. Others are only in the early stages, they find their own masters. It happens. because these thoughts come from our mind which divide, exclude, separate. And Master's love is for union, for uniting. That is why the love is strong, but Masters can make you feel the only exclusive Master. And they can give you that feeling, which is great. Their love is so powerful. They don't have to think whether I love a person or not. It's automatic. Almost radiates from them. When you are in the presence, something is affecting us without even knowing how it's affecting. So that is why these masters affect us. When people ask me, which master should I follow? Generally this question is coming from their mind. Tell me the master, I'll check him out. I'll see if he's a master or not. If we human beings can find out who is a master or not, we are masters ourselves. We can't find. And masters can play games so that a person who's only curious to check him out, they'll pretend they are completely non-masters. He says, yes, I found out, he's not a master. And masters can do that because that person is not on their list. He's list B. So it's a very complicated game. Now, I can't tell you exactly how Master perform, but one day I think I'll check into the Master's manual of operation and see what else they can tell us. But it is a very wonderful thing. I tell people, follow the Master who pulls you. There was a master in India, in a dera, I'm giving him a name, he's passed away. His name was Baba Pratap Singh. And he had a dera in a place very, very close, about 20 miles away from the dera where Great Master was there. The dera that was where Great Master worked was called Dera Baba Jamal Singh, named after his master, Jamal Singh. The other dera was called Dera Baba Bagga Singh, because another disciple, Swamiji's, was setting that up. So there were two deras there. They were pretty close to each other. They were both owing allegiance to the teachings of one master, Seth Shivdayal Singh Swamiji of Agra, who set up the Radha Swami faith. This Baba Pratap Singh was initiated by the successor of Baba Bagga Singh. Baba Bagga Singh's successor name was Deva Singh. Very interesting story. When Great Master was alive, my father and I were also his disciples. One day, my father was standing next to Great Master while he was talking to a group of Sevadars. And a message came, somebody brought a little message. Message said that Bagga Singh has died, of the other dera, and people are not sure who is the successor. You please come and decide. So, Great Master Baba Savan Singh turned to my father and said, Lekhraj, that was his name, Lekhraj, do you have your car here? And he said, yes, it's parked right there. He said, we have to go to Tarun Taran right now. Baba Bagga Singh has passed away and they are not sure who their successor is. So my dad took the Great Master in his car to Tarun Taran. Their Great Master gave a discourse, a satsang, and said, Deva Singh will be the next master. Because of the nature of his personality, what Great Master would speak, most people would accept. So the disciples of Baba Bagga Singh accepted the choice. So Baba Deva Singh became the master. Then Baba Deva Singh had a disciple named Pratap Singh, who was a wrestler. He was a good wrestler. He could wrestle with people. He was a disciple. So he got initiated from Baba Deva Singh. But he, because of this close relationship, because Great Master had gone to their dera, many of the followers of Deva Singh would also attend satsangs, attend discourses in the great master dera, Baba Jamal Singh dera. So Pratap Singh would come there, and when he would see great master, he was pulled by love. When he would go back to listen to his own master, there was no pull. He was surprised. He did meditation, and part of the meditation is called dhyan, contemplation of the face of your master. When he would contemplate, instead of his master Deva Singh appearing, Baba Sawan Singh would appear. And he would try to push Sawan Singh aside in meditation to try to imagine his own master. It became difficult. So this Pratap Singh went to great master Baba Sawan Singh, and he said, "Why are you messing up my meditation? I am not your disciple. I am disciple of Baba Deva Singh, who you appointed there. And I am trying to do his dhyan, I am trying to remember him, and you are coming in my meditation and interfering." Great master laughed and said, "Pratap Singh, when any disciple of a master has a problem in meditation, he should go to his own master. Why have you come to me? You have a problem in meditation, go to your master." So Pratap Singh went back and went to his master, Baba Deva Singh, and said, "Master, I am your initiate, and when I try to meditate, I can't remember you, I remember Baba Sawan Singh." And I went to him and I told him, "Why are you interfering in my meditation?" And he said, "If you have a problem in meditation, go to your own master. So I have come to you." And Baba Deva Singh said, "Pratap Singh, all masters in their highest form are the same. It's the same master power which is just manifesting in different human bodies. It does not mean that the power is different. It does not mean any difference at all. Which route you take when you go into the same place, and therefore it doesn't matter whether that master is your master or I am your master. The one that pulls you is the one that you love. Your love has developed for Baba Sawan Singh and not for me. Therefore, now I am advising you, go back to Baba Sawan Singh and tell him this and ask him, 'Baba Sawan Singh, do you accept me as your disciple?'" So Baba Pratap Singh did that, went back and told great master, "This is what my conversation is with my master. He has sent me now this time. Will you accept me as your disciple?" And great master smiled and said, "Beshak, of course." And so he began to meditate on Baba Pratap Singh. Pratap Singh began to meditate on Baba Sawan Singh. This is a very important feature that we sometimes feel, "Oh, I don't know who is my master." When people ask me, any master who pulls you is your master at that time. He may not even be a perfect master, but you are at the stage in your spiritual journey, you need that master. Follow the master that pulls you with his love. And if that is not your master, you will yourself find out that you are not satisfied. The seeking will continue. Another master will appear in your life to take you forward. When you are ready to go to your true home, your seeking will be only for your true home. A perfect living master will appear in your life. So that is why one should not worry too much about. Wherever the pull is, go there. One friend of mine wrote to me, "Tell me truthfully, these two masters, which one should I follow? Who is higher?" I said to him, "I am no judge of masters. I am not a master myself. I am trying to be sevadar of my master, trying to serve him. But all I can say is that whichever master pulls you, go follow." He wrote back to me, "Both of them are pulling me. Now tell me which one I follow." I said, "People can't find even one perfect master. How lucky you are to find two. Follow any one of those two. They're equally good." So these things happen in life. And we get into situations, the mind asks questions, mind wants to be satisfied. Another issue comes up. A strange feeling is they think that getting initiated by a master is like being married to the master. Oh, I am his disciple. Am I betraying am I betraying my master by going somewhere else? So many people used to say this to great master said, you can go anywhere. He not only allowed, he asked his people, go anywhere, any master, if something is better than I can give you, take it. And come and tell me, he said, I will also take it. They are so open. And we in our mind say, maybe I am not being loyal to the master. It's not a game of loyalty here, it's a game of going within yourself and finding who the master is. Even to know if you are initiated or not, go inside and find out. So the whole journey is inside to discovery. And we are playing the same games outside like we play with normal families and normal relationships. That's not the relationship with a master. Master works like an ordinary person. You're not married to the master. You are being pulled by the master to go back home and leave all marriages around here. Leave everything here, which has not worked well. I would still like to meet a few couples who can say, after some years, our marriage is very successful. I haven't found them yet. But I hear stories otherwise all the time of broken relationships, too much expectations. That is why it's not a relationship like that. These worldly relationships are all tied up with our payment of our past karma. It's not something that we have really found our beloved and we found somebody. These are all relationships created from karma and we have to pay off our price, which we are doing. Whether you do it more cheerfully, you can pay off your karma very nicely if you know it's a payoff and you have to pay your bills. When we have to pay the bills that we buy things, we pay cheerfully. We got something, we're giving. Karma is like that. We get good karma, we get bad karma. We are all happy good karma is okay. So why is bad karma being imposed on us? Nobody imposed it. It's our own doing. We're just paying for it. And I always say, the marriage is one of the fastest ways to pay off karma. It's true. It creates the conditions where you're so close to each other. When you are dating, it's a different situation. When you're married, it's a different situation. I had, in the 60s, I had a friend named Emily. And Emily was married to Ross. They both lived in Nevada. When they fell in love, it was such a deep love, they said we are what they call pairs. Soulmates pair. We are soulmates pair. We are made for each other. Our marriage is really made in heaven, others are only spoken as heaven. And after a few years, they were in divorce court. They divorced. They suddenly discovered they're not made for each other at all. They were completely different in their thinking. Now looks the real story. When they separated, they loved each other again. First they said, oh, we are divorced, but we are like friends. Then the friendship grew into love, and they were soulmates again. And they got married again. Second marriage, same pair. After 2 years, fights began, arguments began, divorce again. After 1 year of divorce, they were in love again, each other. That couple married and divorced 3 times. And when I studied their life, what was happening, the experiences they have when they were not married and felt they were a couple together were so much different than the experience they had after getting married. So I was thinking, why should that be just an institution? Some people say just a paper. But a paper can do so much havoc to your personal life. I didn't know that. I told somebody how a little paper, which is called a marriage certificate, Little paper can create so many problems for a person which they never seen before. Living happily and suddenly now they have to please others, which you can never please. A young man went to his father, Dad. He said, Dad, I want to get married. He said, say sorry. He said, why sorry? I just say I want to get married. Say sorry. But tell me what's my fault. Say sorry. But there must be some reason for it. No, say sorry. Okay, I say sorry. Now you're qualified to get married. You have to be ready to say sorry even if you don't know why you are saying sorry. Then you're fit for marriage. It's a very interesting how these things happen. So, don't worry, this is not a marriage. It's a true love. Marriage generates experiences of payoff of karma. True love of a master cuts out the karma, does not create more karma.